All right. Well, welcome back to some supervision. My name is Robert Farrow, licensed professional supervisor in the state of Texas. I work in the Montgomery County area, just on the outskirts of Conroe. In any case, if you are one of my associates, then this video is probably one I have asked you to go watch. If you are not one of my associates, then here again, like I say in my previous episodes, thank you for watching, thank you for showing up, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. But like I said, these are primarily meant for my associates that I'm supervising here in the state. So there again, welcome to supervision. This one we're looking at therapeutic presence, and honestly, this one I think is going to be one of the hardest ones for me to talk about and teach, because honestly, I am not an expert in this one at all. This one is difficult to get to that point, okay? As a counselor, and I use more of an emotionally focused approach, using a mixture of a couple different counseling approaches in that area, this one is very important for counseling from my perspective. Now, if you are not EFT oriented, but if you're CBT, DBT, rational, whichever one you want to take for your theoretical orientation, this is still important. This is an aspect that you need to be aware of, cognizant of, and able to use in your counseling and therapy that you will be doing. This is one that has taken me about 16 years to really get a grasp on, and now that I'm at that point, I'm using it every session, and I'm finding it to be very, very difficult. So this one takes practice. So having said that, I want to just move on into what we're going to be looking at. So what exactly is therapeutic presence? Well, therapeutic presence is, if you think of it as kind of an acting format, it's about the best analogy I can give, then it is the persona that we put on that is therapeutic in nature and how we're going to help other people. The tricky part is you can't fake this. If you don't have it, you can develop it. If you don't develop it, then a person can come across as really cold. You may have heard of the idea of having that cold bedside manner that some doctors may have. They may be excellent physicians, excellent caregivers, but come across as just a little cold, not warm. Therapeutic presence consists of a lot of things. One, it's the way you experience a client and interact with that client. It's how they see you and how you see yourself. It is also the first step in developing therapeutic alliance. I'll be doing another video for training on therapeutic alliance later on. Therapeutic alliance is a huge component of your counseling practice and therapeutic approach. It is very important, and we'll probably cover that more in our individual sessions. So what does presence consist of? Well, TP is what we're going to refer to it as, therapeutic presence, to make it easy. But there's 4 aspects involved and 4 qualities. So the 4 aspects, the first one we're going to look at is a physical presence. When you enter into your room, enter into the counseling environment, what presence do you bring with you? What kind of air and attitude follows? First of all is your appearance. What do you look like? Are you appropriately dressed? Are you not only appropriate for the season, but for a professional look and attire? The room itself that you're working in. Now, if you're at a facility where you have no control over the room, that's not your problem at that point in time. However, if you are in private practice and you're going to be doing certain things, then you want to kind of create an environment. The environment I have here is a little more clinical in the sense it functions as an office as well as a therapy area. Now, I've seen other counselors that have great office spaces where they have just a couple chairs that are very comfortable and a very warm, inviting environment. You have to make it work for you and match your approach. The other one is posture. Now you'll notice me, I usually have a cup of coffee in my hand, mostly because I have sinus issues and I'm constantly having drainage, and it does help. Second of all, the way you present yourself, your physical presence in therapeutic presence is an important aspect. Your posture, it tells a lot using nonverbal communication. Your body position, leaning forward, leaning back, leaning to the sides, it really conveys a lot to your client. As you are reading them, they are reading you as well. Which leads me to think, because of that, we're going to look at some other things here in the therapeutic presence with regards to that. So don't forget that. They're reading you as much as you're going to be reading them. The second aspect is emotional presence, okay? And this one here can be very tricky. We're going to be looking at our own personal awareness. Are you aware of your own emotional state as you're going into counseling? Are you preparing yourself appropriately for that? If you have unresolved issues of your own, they can pop up when you least expect it. Facial expressions. If you are trying to hide your own emotions and it comes out, it may be because you haven't dealt with them yet fully. It's an area you want to do that. We all are going to have different emotional connections to people, especially if you have your own childhood issues or adulthood issues that require your attention. They have to be resolved, okay? So as a part of the expressions, we got verbal and the nonverbal. Here's where that body posture comes into play for the nonverbal. One of the things I find quite fascinating is our ability to convey congruency and authenticity to the client. They can tell if we're being extremely fake, phony. It's noticeable. So you have to be you. If you make a mistake, own it. Say, you know what? I can't know everything. I can't be the professional expert in all possible realms of life experience. But I can be open and expansive enough to say, help me learn. The third aspect that we need to look at is our cognitive presence. Simply put, are we there in the room with them? Have you gotten enough rest? Are you sleeping well? If you're not getting enough sleep at night, then you might want to think about changing your routine and schedule. Are you alert during a session? Now I'll have to admit myself, one of the problems I run into is if I hold a session later in the evening, which I oftentimes do, I on occasion will yawn. And I have to tell them, it's not you, it's the fact that it's been a long day. And I'm trying to push myself to be able to get through a session on occasion. It's a little embarrassing, but it does happen. Also, you got to be prepared. This one here, it doesn't take much. Look back at the previous session notes, follow up on what you did previously, being aware of the diagnosis that you're dealing with, or if you're just doing more of an assessment-based approach in your opening first sessions or two, then be prepared to look at those kinds of topics. We can't forget our education just because you've been in it for a while. Keeping up with continuing education is important. Continually learning more information. This is huge. Last one is sober-minded. The Texas Administrative Code is very clear about this one. If you are using a substance and are out working and going to work while under the influence, then you are not cognitively present. You can't be. It's just not possible to be under the influence of alcohol and other substances and be truly therapeutically helpful for the client. You have to take care of your own stuff first. I'm not saying I'm against alcohol. All I'm saying is I'm against using something, any substance, and then coming into a session while under the influence of it. The fourth aspect is spiritual presence. Now this one here is kind of unique. The Texas Administrative Code allows us to discuss spirituality and spiritual issues of the client's choosing, okay? So knowing that, you can get into the different spiritual issues that a person deals with. It is an aspect of their human existence. However, at what point in time are you able to add your own personal beliefs? Should you or shouldn't you? A lot of this depends upon your motivation behind it. As far as a fourth presence of spirituality, if your client does not want to involve spirituality, then I'm going to suggest that you follow their guidelines and not do it. If, however, your client is wanting that spiritual component, they're looking at things saying holistically, let's bring it all together at one time, then by all means, okay, you have the right to do that. But there again, we do not have the right to teach our own personal beliefs, only to help them uncover theirs, or maybe help them find where they can seek their own developmental beliefs at. So some of the four qualities here. The first one is grounded in self. This one's huge, guys. This one's extremely important. It's difficult because it requires you to be grounded in who you are as an individual. So another way of saying this is, if you don't know who you are, then how can you possibly help someone trying to figure out who they are? Very important component to being a congruent, whole, authentic individual. Okay, you're going to notice I'm using some very Gestalt terminology here. Genuine, authentic, whole. These are important components. Becoming grounded in self means knowing who you are. This is an important area. If you are unsure of who you are, you may come across in your therapeutic presence as being unsure of how to help them, and they may sense that. It can be a little unnerving when they're like, okay, I'm coming to you for help, but you seem like you're having your own problems. That can happen. The second quality that we're going to look at is immersed in the moment. Now this is the one that I think is probably one of the hardest ones to do, simply because it requires an intense amount of concentration and a deliberate active choice. Okay, when they're talking, when you're in front of your client and you're listening to them, the active listening skills have got to be absolutely off the chart. You have to be able to be so intentional in listening to them, not just their words, but their nonverbal communication skills and what they're not saying verbally, as well as what they're not saying emotionally and with nonverbals. And then we are also going to be looking at an aspect of reading them with our whole person in just a moment. Immersed in the moment is being completely grounded in the here and now, being, as Rogers would have put it, so in tune with the person in that moment in time that nothing else could possibly exist except the two going in that relationship. This is where I like to bring up being full ACE, okay? An acronym there of being fully aware, fully committed, and fully engaged. By being fully aware, you're aware of your own self and aware of them. Being aware of your needs, and trust me, you're going to have needs throughout the day, throughout sessions. You will have needs to go to the bathroom, to get a drink, to prepare for the next session, to calm yourself after a difficult session, becoming aware of yourself. Being committed in the moment is really saying, I am fully connected to this moment in the here and now time period. That one takes energy. It can be difficult to do. Fully engaged simply means not letting your mind wander, paying attention to exactly what they're saying so that you understand them in the best way possible. And then asking for clarity, asking them, am I connecting with what you're telling me? Am I hearing you correctly? By paraphrasing, by reflecting, using the different skills and techniques that you've picked up. This is an important aspect of being immersed in the moment. And to do it right in the beginning can be very tiring. The third one is open to expansion. This one's kind of unique in the sense that you're being aware of not only your aspect and your ACE, your fullness, your awareness, your connection and engagement and commitment, but the aspects of your clients. Where are they at? What state are they in during the session? Because it will change. You can begin a session where they're very controlled in their mannerism and in their emotional state. And as the session progresses, they may become very agitated or despondent, or they may just have a change or a complete shutdown. It's really hard to say what could happen. And so you have to be open to the expansion and the flexibility of what's happening in that relationship. This is more noticeable after you've achieved therapeutic alliance, simply because once they buy into you as a counselor and they begin to trust what you say, then your openness and expansion to their input is very important. This is, again, an aspect of extensive practice on how to read and follow your gut with what's going on. The physical presence, how do they look? How are they appearing? Their emotional presence, what facial expressions are they giving? What sounds are they producing with their voice? What blockages might they be having in their voice? Their cognitive presence, do they seem distracted? Are they talking now, but they're actually living in the past or in the future? Where is their mind at? And their spiritual aspects, are they worried about issues that are more existential and have larger picture qualities than they're presenting? We have to kind of read through some of this. So the fourth quality is being compassionately connected. And this is really an aspect of what led you to counseling in the first place. Most counselors get into counseling, I think, because we want to help people. We enjoy helping people. Many counselors that got into it may have entered into the field for the wrong reason, for the desire to fix themselves and to resolve their own issues. And if that's one that got you into the field, then I hope you've worked out those issues, because they really need to be addressed. At the same time, we have to be compassionately connected to our clients. Another word is empathy. Okay, we have to understand what they've felt through their existence, through their experiences, without putting any judgment of our own. So we're going to look at some aspects here of presence now, and as an acronym. Presence is the beginning, really, to just take a pause, take a deep breath, and take a moment before you begin your sessions to go over and do a self-check, an evaluation. Okay, basically what this end is saying is to put yourself aside and just be in that moment in time. That way you are fully aware of yourself, your feelings, your thoughts, your issues that you may be dealing with on a personal level, whatever they might be, putting them aside for that moment, because in counseling, we're not the important one. The client is the important one. And so therefore we have to pause ourselves. And the next one is to relax. For a new client, or for a new counselor as an LPC associate, this one takes a good bit of practice and the experience to get to the point where you can relax into your session. Some of the things you're going to want to work on would include learning to sit in the here and now, being in the moment, okay, with their emotions, not absorbing them yourself, not taking them in, not deflecting them. Allow them to have that emotion, allow them to experience it. We have to learn to relax into that sometimes because they can be very uncomfortable and disconcerting in some cases. Another one is to relax during sessions, not only sitting in the here and now, but when those emotional pieces come up that are difficult for your client, recognize your own sensation, relax into it. Another one is soften the face muscles. There's an expression out about having what's called, quote, I'm going to quote this as the resting bitch face. If you have one of those, you have to ask yourself how to soften it, how to relax those muscles, and to allow yourself to be present in that moment, relaxed in that moment, so that your own personal material may not be coming up. And that's an area we have to relax, okay? A soft smile, okay? Not one of those painful stares. The E in presence is awareness, enhancing your awareness, increasing that awareness. There's some things you can do to accomplish that. One of them is to breathe. Simply breathe. Practice the deep breathing techniques that you have already learned, that you will be teaching your clients on how to breathe properly. Use them yourself. Another one is shuttling. Now this one here is really more of a Gestalt technique where you're bouncing your awareness from your own internal existence and experience to the external, the room itself. Shuttling back and forth means you're taking the time to become aware of what's in the immediate frame of referencing. Okay, another wording would be the figure ground. What are you aware of versus what's on the outside? What's in the not so crystal clearness? Mindfulness. Guys, this is a huge one right now in our culture. A lot of counselors and psychologists are teaching this one. It's been around for a long time. We have to increase our awareness and be mindful of many things at one time. This can be very tiring. Sensing your inner body. This one here takes a little bit of practice, increasing your awareness of your whole self, knowing yourself completely. What do you feel on the inside? Is it matching what you're showing on the outside? Another component to that is when your client is talking and they're expressing different emotions, put yourself in their shoes. Feel what they're feeling. Allow yourself to sense your own physical reactions to it. So if they're sharing something with you that sounds disgusting and feels disgusting, ask them. That sounds really disgusting. Did you have a problem with that? Did you feel disgusted? Or you can say, you know what, I'm a little disgusted by what I'm hearing. That was a gross environment. That was a difficult experience that you had. Or whatever the emotion might be. I went with that visceral sensation of disgust. It could be something as light and airy as a mild anxiousness that you might experience. Bring it up. If you're sensing it in your body based on what they're sharing, then the likelihood is they're experiencing it too. Expand awareness. Here's kind of where the previous one was at. Moving outward, increasing the external sensation of the room, especially in group settings. If you're doing group work, do a temperature in the room. Ask everybody, how are they feeling at that moment? Especially if a member of the group was sharing a very difficult emotional memory or experience that they've had. It can really cause some unsettled nerves in the room. If you're sensing something, so everybody else is too. It's something to take into account. Notice the moment. Here, I think this one here is really just more than just expanding our awareness of the previous one, but we're doing it without judgment. Okay, kind of going back to Carl Rogers' approach of that non-judgmental stance. Noticing the moment is really, I think, more about our presence in that moment in time, where we are connecting with them in a way that very few people have ever experienced. And so it can be missed. You have to be waiting for it, looking for it. And when that moment shows up, point it out to them and say, right now I'm feeling this, or whatever it is that you're feeling. It's something that if it's done at the timely manner, that therapeutic presence goes up and your therapeutic alliance can really develop. Centering grounded. Here you got to be really in the moment, mindful of yourself, centered on your own being, and grounded in your own skin. Okay, if you are feeling uncomfortable in a circumstance, in a situation, then I would advise to go with your gut. I have had associates in the past that would work with me, and we would process a case they were dealing with and go through the case conceptualization of it, and they would bring up aspects of how they felt creeped out, or they felt discomforted by something that was said, or a mannerism from one of the clients. If you're feeling that and it's discentering you and it's ungrounding you, then you want to bring yourself back to the moment and be able to process through rapidly in yourself what it is that's going on that got you that disoriented, got you off ground or off center. Feeling with your whole body is, if you've not used to do it, it takes a little bit of practice. So extending contact, this one is what Martin Buber referred to as the I-thou relationship, as opposed to it being an I-it relationship. Here, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this. That would require a whole other video, which I might do at some point. I don't know. I got a little bit more research to do on this one, only because it's not one I've read recently. But the whole relationship issue is a connection of humanity, allowing your humanness and their humanness to be understood and accepted without judgment. It's almost saying a we relationship. We're in it together. This is an interesting aspect of contact between two people, and the best philosophical expression is the I-thou, not I-it. We're not separate. We're in it as a unit. That's where the therapeutic presence begins to really grow into therapeutic alliance. And you can begin to notice it once you've got buy-in from your client and they're accepting the alliance, and it's now becoming a team effort. The relationship of I-thou takes on a very different quality to it. Okay, like I said, this one here is one of the more difficult presentations for me to give, talking about therapeutic presence. Therapeutic alliance is probably a very short one, because if you've spent your time and energy working on the therapeutic presence and getting yourself squared around, becoming grounded, becoming engaged, being fully aware in the moment, if you can do all of that, the therapeutic presence becomes the therapeutic alliance quite simply. And it happens before you even notice it. Now, the hard part, we got to do it every session. And that's why those that practice this approach will often say you need to have between session breaks. You need to take care of yourself and perform self-care, which is why one of the first things I talk about with each and every one of my associates is self-care. How do you take care of yourself before a case and a session, during as well as after? What are you doing to resolve yourself and allowing yourself to reestablish or recharge that battery, if you will. Okay, that's really it for this one. Welcome to Supervision. This one we've looked at therapeutic presence, and I'll probably be sending several of you to watch it here not too much longer. Hopefully I can get this one posted yet this evening, because it is May 3rd, 2022. So you guys take care, keep doing what you're doing, do the best you can, and remember, nobody's perfect. You're going to make mistakes, especially as an associate, and allow yourself to learn from them. Okay? Develop the therapeutic presence takes a good bit of practice and some time. So until next time, take care and keep doing it.